So welcome again. My name is Shay and I'm the Program Director for Artists Creating Together. Joining me today is Emily Evers. Emily, if you can give a wave. Emily is the Advancement Director for Artists Creating Together, and she's going to be helping me with the technical side of Zoom webinar, which is the platform that we're using today. And Emily's going to make sure that I don't miss anything, and she will be facilitating a Q&A at the end of this discussion. Before we get into it, attendees, I want to give a little bit of general information about the Zoom webinar platform in case any of you are new to it, which I am. So I'm certainly not professing to be an expert at this, but because we are using Zoom webinar, as Emily mentioned, you are joining us with your cameras and microphones turned off. If you are interested in asking a question, you can do that through the Q&A feature. So if you move your cursor towards the bottom of your screen, a menu bar should appear at the bottom if you're on a computer. And you should see a little Q&A bubble, and there you can type in questions. And the Q&A feature is different than the chat feature, which I also encourage you to use. You should be able to see that on your settings bar as well. The Q&A feature will allow Emily and I to monitor your questions, and the chat feature is a great way. If you're unable to use the Q&A feature, if it's not working for you, feel free to use the chat, where you can ask questions as well or make comments. If you want to adjust how your screen looks right now, hopefully in the upper right-hand corner or somewhere on your screen, you should see view. And if you select speaker view as your view, the person who is presently speaking will be the biggest on your screen. And if you click view to gallery view, then you should see small squares with everyone who is a panelist on your screen. If you need to leave our panel discussion early, you can do that by clicking on the red leave button, which for me is in the lower right-hand corner of my screen. So attendees, if you need to leave, feel free to do that. And as I mentioned, we'll post this webinar later, or this discussion later. And as I also mentioned, at the end of the panel discussion around 10:45, we'll have time for audience Q&A. But attendees, you need to let Emily and I know if you would like to ask a question or if you would like to share by posting your question in the Q&A feature or by posting it in the chat. Otherwise, we won't know that you're interested in asking a question or making a comment. And also attendees, if you are an artist and you have your own artwork with you that you would like to share, let Emily know that, because she is able to not only activate your microphone, but she can also turn on your camera for if you want to do a show and tell of your own artwork, which we do encourage. So hopefully that's helpful. I want to start off after that with a little bit of background information on Artists Creating Together and Action Art, because I know some of you who are audience members today might be new to ACT and to Action Art. So Artists Creating Together is a nonprofit that empowers individuals with disabilities to learn, grow, and celebrate through the arts. We provide art opportunities to individuals with disabilities all the way from early childhood and well above. In our art studio in Grand Rapids, we're in the schools, we're in health entities, and you can find us normally at lots of community events. One of our most celebrated events each year is called Action Art. Action Art, which kicked off yesterday, runs through today until 7 p.m. And it is a unique opportunity for adult artists with disabilities to showcase and sell their artwork. Audience members, I encourage you to go to our website, and I'm going to ask Emily to put the Action Art URL in the chat feature. If you go to the link that Emily's posting for us, you'll be able to see all of the Action Art events and details. And then you'll also be able to view our entire Action Art exhibit online. So you can totally do this from the comfort of wherever you are currently at. You'll be able to look at each entered art piece of artwork. You'll be able to read all about the artist, and you can even vote on your favorite pieces. The artist who receives the most votes from the public will be awarded the People's Choice title for 2021. If you're voting for your favorite, you can actually vote for all your favorites. You can vote for as many action artists as you would like. So you can vote for every single artist if you want to, but you'll only be able to vote for each artist one time. Additionally, we have something called Jurors' Choice winners. So we have a panel of jurors who are former action art winners, as well as local artists and art experts who have reviewed all of the artwork for Action Art 2021 and have selected their top 3 picks. So tomorrow at 10 a.m. from ACT's Facebook page, I will be announcing live the 3 Jurors' Choice winners. Those winners will be part of a special exhibit at the Grand Rapids Art Museum this summer, along with the winners from 2019 and 2020. And so as soon as we have more information from the Art Museum about that exhibit, I want everyone to go to that, and I want everyone to invite everyone that they know to go to that. And I'll also be announcing the People's Choice winner tomorrow at 10. So make sure you follow ACT on our Facebook page, because that's where the live announcement will pop up. And that's also where we put just a lot of new information about what we're doing as well. So let's get started with what you've all come here for, our Artist Talk panel. Today we have 5 panelists with us. We have, and just wave when I say your name, panelists. I'll give you time to introduce yourselves in a moment. But we have with us Lane Cooper, Wes DeVries, Scott Fergus, Scott, can you give us a wave? And Scott is joined by Emily. We're going to do introductions. I'm just having everyone wave right now. Scott's joined with his mom, Esther. Thank you, Esther, for joining and supporting. And we have Penny Phelan with us. And we have Nick Nortier with us. Great. Hopefully Penny's camera can come back on. So Wes, Scott, Penny, and Lane are all former Jurors' Choice winners. Scott and Penny are winners from 2019. Wes and Lane are winners from 2020. So they, along with the other 2019 and 2020 winners, will be part of the Action Art exhibit at the Graham. And Nick is a local artist in Grand Rapids, and I'll let him talk about himself in a moment. But welcome to all of you panelists. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So I am going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves a little bit more in depth than what I did. And then after you get done briefly talking about yourself, Emily is going to share her screen and show a picture of your winning Jurors' Choice art piece. If you could also talk about that, that would be wonderful. So Lane, I'm going to start with you. If you could unmute and then briefly introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, there he is. All right, Lane, we can hear you.
That'll come up slow, okay. My name is Lane Cooper. I live in a rural community called Freeport. I've been an art prize artist for 10 years, but in 2003, I had a serious car accident with traumatic brain injury. Years of pain and serious headaches led to earlier than planned retirement. During this struggle, I discovered that creating art was my best therapy, as it kept my hands busy and not worrying about what my brain or my head injury was doing. I would work till I was exhausted and then start another venture after I was rested again. So art has become my therapy for my pain. Thank you.
Thank you, Lane. And Lane, right now we're looking at an image of your 2020 Jurors' Choice winning piece, The Last Supper. Can you briefly tell us about The Last Supper?
I was at Art Price showing another piece when I picked up a magazine written by Ken Stone, and it's all about God's creatures. And he talked about how the animals in the Bible and the birds were not mentioned too much. And I got to thinking, what? Why not? What if the birds and the animals had a Last Supper too? So I put my mind in gear, and got really deeply involved in looking up the relationship of the birds compared to the disciples. So I matched the birds' behavior to the disciples' behavior, and I came up with the Last Supper. And a lot of people thought I had slipped a cog in my brain, but I really pursued to get this piece done because I really wanted to go somewhere. So I really love this piece. I think it's one of my best. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. It is a spectacular piece. Okay, Wayne, if you want to mute yourself, and then I'm going to ask Wes if you would please introduce yourself.
She's going to mute you.
Hi, my name is Wes DeVries, Grand Rapids born and bred. Still living here with my family. I have my studio in my basement. I was diagnosed with SMA, which is muscle related, so there's a lot of pain involved, and just short days with physical activity. So on the days where I feel good and sometimes when I don't, I'm going to do art therapy, and that's just been a catalyst and just keeping going and joining ACT and just being with other artists and participating is a wonderful thing.
Thank you, Wes. And Emily, could you show an image of Wes's 2020 juror selection artwork? Wes, can you talk about this briefly?
Yeah, this is a piece that I had a lot of fun with. It just kind of, it just happened really well. It was just my observance of how there's a constant cycle of construction and deconstruction and just decay and just things, you know, that you see every day. And what I'm trying to do is get people to notice that this is a process and it's not the end of the world when something is all of a sudden decaying and going in that direction. And this is a piece I call infrastructure, and it just shows that part of it, like the crumbling of something that's been around for a long time and used, and it's probably past its use, but I saw beauty in that. Just old structures that have a lot of pieces coming off and falling off and just kind of falling on top of each other, and just I saw beauty in that, and I tried to capture that in this piece.
Thank you, Wes. Scott, would you be able to introduce yourself to our audience members? Scott, can you unmute yourself? There you go.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's call Kirios. One time ago, I made this. My espresso of his house. And her school teacher.
Thank you, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
So these shelves that we are looking at were in the home of your teacher,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And she collects some really interesting things.
I know there's a bird and a cat. Yeah. Blue bird too. And paintings.
I love it. And Scott, if you had to tell us something else that we should know about you, what would you tell us?
Well, it was animals. I like animals I made. The paint. Oh, the cats and all that. Things. Jurors. Isha. And Tower. And Homer. That's what I know about them.
Thank you, Scott.
Many cats.
Thank you, Scott. Okay. Penny, could you please introduce yourself to our audience members?
Sure. I'm Penny Phelan, and I've kind of a self-taught artist. I've had many teachers in school, but mainly self-taught after that. And I enjoy painting in different medias, and I love mixed media. This is an acrylic. This is my father, and his name's Tom Lewis, but in this it's newspaper Tom. My dad had 7 kids, and he worked in a factory most of his life, and he always tried to come home and get off his feet, and he wanted to read the newspaper, but we were always underfoot and very loud and noisy. So he wanted to sit down and read the paper, but he was retiring. This was his first vacation after he retired, and I had a photo, and after he passed away, I was going through the photos, and I saw this, and I thought, wow, he finally got to sit down and read a paper without any interruption. But I love the subject matter, and I just, finally, I guess this was still kind of a way of me honoring him and working through, grieving too. You grieve in different ways, but boy, he would have just loved this. And then to get an opportunity to put him in the museum is going to be even more wonderful. But after my accident, it was hard because I hadn't had opportunity to do much painting, and I'm really honored that they decided to pick this one. So I guess that's all I have for opening.
And Penny is a 2019 Jurors Choice winner, as is Scott, who we saw before. Thank you. Okay, Nick, could you please introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Nick Nardier. I'm a illustrator and mural painter based out of Grand Rapids. I've been a freelance artist full-time for about 5 or 6 years now. I focus primarily on mural painting, and as of the last few years, I've been doing a lot of printmaking. These 2 pieces are they're cut wood panels, which I spray painted first, and then did a screen print on top of. And the ones on the right are printed on tongue and groove hardwood floorboards. So I originally had those cut to 11 by 17, painted them, printed on them, and then kind of took them all apart and rearranged them into the current form. So it's kind of a play on just kind of working on more of an abstract piece, which I don't normally do.
Thank you. Thank you all for those wonderful introductions. And we are going to go ahead and start with our discussion questions. So Emily, if you want to stop sharing your screen. Thank you. Okay. So the theme, I always try to have a theme for action art, even though I don't necessarily make that the focus of the exhibit. But the theme for this year is We Belong. So I want to ask some of our panelists today, do you think being an artist can help someone find a sense of community or find a place where they feel like they belong? And I'm going to ask Nick if he wants to start with his perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that through working through art, I've made feel like the good majority of the friends that I have are artists, and just people that I've met through doing artwork. And there absolutely is a sense of community and a sense of belonging, because you find people that are interested in the same things that you are, and that's creating art. And I don't know, you can kind of create a little community and bounce ideas back and forth. and just support each other and encourage each other. And I think that for me has been one of the most important things. Because, you know, if I'm ever stuck on something or feeling discouraged or, you know, anything like that, I have friends that are like, you got this, like, you can do this. Or like, you know, like, what if, you know, this thing isn't working, you know, like maybe try this instead. Like, so yeah, so I think having, you know, friends that are artists absolutely has a sense of belonging. And I think it's critically important.
Thank you. Wes, I'm gonna turn it to you. Do you think being an artist can help someone find a place where they feel like they belong?
Absolutely. Because artists are pretty forgiving with each other, and we all encourage each other to take a step, maybe to be bold in some areas of what they're doing, and not be afraid of it. And a mistake is a mistake. Sometimes mistakes can turn out to be something incredible. A lot of my paintings are that way. Like in the middle of my painting, I'm thinking this thing's not looking the way I think, and then somebody says, "Well, Wes, it's time to attack it." So, I mean, that voice is in your head if you're, you know, that kind of thing. And yeah, absolutely, it's the most encouraging and accepting thing that I could think of.
Thank you. Scott, I'm gonna ask you, do you feel like being an artist can help someone find a place where they feel like they belong?
Okay. Yes.
And
And Machacharo and
Scott has his cards, his art turned into cards. And he sells the cards at the local butcher shop. And when he goes there, what happens? You go and he finds, what do you find? Good things?
good things, yes. To make.
Yeah, to eat and people talk
about you. Yes, talk about me, yes.
Yeah. And he also gets a nice check every month.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Scott. All right. Penny, what about you? Do you feel like being an artist can help someone find a sense of community or a place where they feel like they belong? And Penny, you're muted.
I don't know how to fix that. Can
Oh, there you go.
Okay, good. Sure, definitely. I think you can definitely find community there. After my accident, I think I just shared a little while ago that how going to Pain and Miracle, I think a lot of people after the accident didn't understand my depression because they didn't understand art, and so they didn't understand how important it was to somebody that was an artist to not be able to use their arm to create. So being part of a artist community can really help you overcome, because like artists can help you get through those times, because they have a little they understand what you've lost, and they can help you develop in other areas or show you another technique that might be more helpful and might help. You know, you might not be able to do detail work anymore, but I learned to do palette knife instead of doing, you know, detailed, and I love it. And you know, I would have probably never picked up the palette knife if it hadn't been for my accident. So and I much rather do palette knife. So it has really been an eye-opener to me, and the people have just been so supportive. And you know, I get done with one painting and they may say, "Hey, have you ever tried this?" You know, so new openings, you know, because the people around me are supportive and they're understanding. So definitely has been, you know, a great experience for me. And just meeting people in the art industry just so creative, and they're so loving and caring, you know. And even if they're not painters, the people who do pottery and the people that do the metalworking, stuff like that. So interesting, so interesting. So yes, definitely.
Thank you. So it's interesting when you all shared about different ways that an artist can feel community, because I heard, Penny referenced an art studio, and Scott mentioned feeling a sense of place at a butcher shop. And Nick and Wes talked about feeling a sense of community, not just with other artists, but also just within themselves, feeling more comfortable and inspiring yourself. So thank you very much for that. The next question I want to ask is, from your perspective as a singular artist, what would you say is the best part about being an artist? And Lane, we haven't heard from you yet, so I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself, and I'm going to ask you that. Lane, to you, what is the best part about being an artist?
I think whenever I express my art, it helps other people to draw out their inner expressions in themselves. So I consider art as a universal chord connector. And if there was a person standing in front of me today telling me that they'd been thinking about taking a class or picking up an art brush again, or they used to do it in high school and they miss it, I would say, you just need to do it. Art does not have to be having your art on display or about making money from it. Art should be whatever your goal is and how you spend your time doing it. Whatever it is, I say, don't wait. Get out and do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lane. Nick, in your experience, what would you say is the best part about being an artist?
It's fun. It really is. It's fun. And honestly, like the community aspect too, like to go back to the last question, like that is a huge part of like what I think is it's great to be an artist. But yeah, just being able to express yourself in a visual manner and just communicate something that might be tough to communicate like through words, but you can put it on a page and just kind of have it out there. I love that aspect of it, and I also really love like hearing other people's thoughts on a particular work, because like I can make a painting or a print or something like that, and somebody else will see something that is totally different than what I had originally thought of, and and then somebody brings that up and it's like, oh wow, that's really neat. So I think that's a great part about being an artist. Oh, and also when people find joy from looking at your work, I think that is it's kind of the icing on the cake.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Penny that question next. Penny, in your experience, what's the best part about being an artist?
Wow. Just being able to share a piece of yourself with other people. Some people do art for different reasons, and my goal when I'm creating is to create a story. So if you can look at a piece and read a story and you can put yourself into the story, I feel like I've done my job. I might not have every angle right or every line meeting each other, but you can look at it and you always feel something. There's always a mood there. So that makes me feel happy when they can see that, and then I connect it with them. So the connection is what gets me, and makes me feel good. And so connecting with people, I like people, I love people, and I love to be around them. So I think that's why I like being an artist. Some people like to be alone as an artist. I like that it pulls me to people. So yeah, I think that's what it is. I like getting out there and being with the people. So I like giving demonstrations, art demonstrations too. So that makes me feel good to be out there.
Thank you, Penny.
and just seeing what I can create next too. So just being able to create something is awesome. You know, you never know what's coming.
Wonderful. Wes, how about you? What to you is the best part about being an artist?
Everything about it. When I'm in the process, I do a quick draw at first, and I have a sense of direction, and then all of a sudden I lose it. But that's when I start having to think, and I love that part. I have no idea what that painting's ever going to look like when it's finished. I know when I'm getting close, but in the process, it's been wonderful. Just it helps you think, and then you stand back and look at it, and you say, "What did I just do there?" But I love that every bit about it. And then it's like, okay, well that doesn't work, and just being bold about it and not worrying about like it's like, okay, it's not perfect with that line and everything, but you know what? On the overall, it works, and people love it. And it is about sharing it, and just some people. I did one painting, and somebody said, "There, it looks like there's a big toe in the middle of it." And I'm like, I didn't see that, but I love that comment, and I all of a sudden I saw it, and I got, I had to do something about it. So it's wonderful, the interaction, and just throwing paint, and it's therapy, and my muscles won't let me do what I want to do as far as details go. So I understand totally that it can be anything and still work.
Awesome, thank you. Scott, would you like to talk about what you think is the best part about being an artist?
Okay. Making people happy.
Thank you, Scott. I bet you make people happy everywhere you go.
Yes.
Okay, but in reality, being an artist can be difficult, right? It's not always super easy to do. So let me flip that question around and ask you, again, only from your perspective, what do you think is the most difficult part about being an artist? And I'm going to ask Lane to unmute himself and start. Lane, what is the most difficult part for you about being an artist?
Thank you, Shay. I have 3 or 4 different reasons that I think is right. One of them is pricing your art. What's the right price to put on it? Then in the long run, your art was rejected. You entered several art shows, and it was rejected. Entry fees were non-refundable. People look at your art piece and they want you to lower the price, and you think you got it as low as you can. And I think another one is sometimes you enter an art show and you think you have a great piece of art, that you're really going to go someplace with it. And then you realize the juror, possibly in your own mind, thinks maybe he picked his friends to be the winners of the show. So there's a lot of ups and downs to entering art shows and being an artist. But my advice is, if you fail, don't give up. Try again. Do it some other way. Thank you.
Thank you. Sage advice. Thank you. Penny, would you be willing to tell us for you what is the most difficult part about being an artist?
I think I think the hardest thing for me, can you hear me?
Yep, we can.
I think the hardest thing for okay. I think the hardest thing for me has been commission art. It's not as freeing. I have did pieces where people have loved it, and I always tell people, when I do commission, I have a different style, and I do with the palette knife. It's a little different. It's not as exacting. And because of that, I see people, usually it's portraits, because it's how I see the person. It's not going to be how a mother sees their child. And so it may not be as pretty as what they think their kid looks like, you know. So I had one, and they loved the child. They loved the first child, and then the second child they didn't love too much. So that was very difficult for me, you know. And so it's, you know, I've kind of moved away from that because of that, and it's just what it is. And so I do a lot of people without faces, and I'd rather create the mood in the story and let them put the faces in. It's not that I can't do a face, it's just that I'm doing what I see as that face, and not everybody sees them themselves as other people see them. So that can be very difficult, you know.
Penny,
So that's probably the hardest. Go ahead.
Sorry. If someone in our audience doesn't know what it means to have commissioned art, can you explain what that means?
Sure. It's somebody's seen some of your work and they've liked it, and they come up and they say, you know, I would really like you to paint such and such for me. Would you be willing to do that? Then I might say, okay, well, I have a certain style. You've seen some of my pieces, you like them. Do you trust me to do it, you know, in my style? That's how I usually present it. And, you know, if they say yes, then I will proceed, and I take a percentage down, and then, you know, that's how I work it. There's different ways of doing it, but and then it's hard, especially, and then it gets harder when it's your friends asking you, you know, because then it's hard because it's not a stranger, and so you can't be as firm, you know. With the commission part of it, you feel like, okay, now I got to tell my friend. You still have to, you know, deal out the dough because you're the one who asked for it, and this is what our contract was. So it's hard, you know, because you want the person to be pleased, but at the same time, you, as an artist, you do have, you know, artist rights, I guess. I don't know what you want to call them, but so I've had good experiences and I've had bad. So, but that's one of them.
Very interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nick, you can pass if you'd like to, but is there anything that you want to share about what you think are some difficult parts about being an artist, or the most difficult part?
I guess one of the most difficult parts is, you know, sometimes like making ends meet. It can be tough, you know, because, you know, sometimes projects fall through that you're counting on, or, you know, any number of things can happen, and you know, it can be tough to make a living as an artist, but it can also be very, very rewarding as well. I think the other thing that's can be difficult is to kind of know like when a piece is finished, and also to like not be like hard on yourself. That's something that I've battled with anyways, is like thinking like, oh, like I wish this were better, or, you know, I wish, you know, I could do this sort of thing. But, you know, just like kind of like, you know, taking a step back and just like realizing like, you know, like accepting the talent that that is innate in each of us, you know, and embracing that, I think is great. So yeah. Yeah, just trying not to talk yourself down can be difficult sometimes. And that circles back to the community thing, and that kind of helps with that.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna jump to this question. What is one piece of advice that you wish you had heard earlier in your journey as an artist? So if you reflect over your time as an artist, looking back, what is something that you wish someone had told you, or something that you had learned earlier? Wes, I'm going to ask you.
kind of a hard question for me because I didn't really listen to anybody really well. And it's probably my fault, but as you just continue to paint, you realize, you know, what does work and what doesn't. And it's pretty much that way for me. You know, it's hard to try to please somebody on that one. And so you just have to kind of put that out of your mind and just do what you do.
Thank you very much for that. Lane, would you be able to share with us a piece of advice that you wish you had heard earlier in your journey as an artist?
Thank you, Shay. I think I probably would have liked to listen to my parents earlier in my lifetime because I was always creative with art. I was accepted to Chicago Art Institute, and I declined to turn it down because I had other ideas in my mind. And relatives encouraged me to go on, but I kind of pursued a little bit of art, making different stuff in my lifetime. But I love being creative, and I've come to believe that I have to share this God-given talent to give me to produce art. So by doing art, I want to encourage others to do art also. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Nick, is there a piece of advice that you wish you had heard earlier in your journey?
Yeah, I think one of the best pieces of advice I got was when I was in a pottery class, and we were making like little pinch pots, and you know, we're kind of just like doing this sort of thing, and working with clay, and I was terrible at it, and I like, you know, many tries, I finally made one that was decent, and then my teacher was like, okay, everybody take your pinch pots and roll them back up into a ball and start over. And I was like, come on, like I just spent like 2 hours like working on this one pinch pot. And his advice was that if you did it once, you can do it again. And I think that's been like one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever had. And yeah, I wish it would have come earlier, because, you know, like you work on something and you like can't figure it out, but then you do it, and then I don't know, it's just know that you can do it again, sort of thing.
Thank you. Okay, for our panelists, I am going to transition to Q&A, see if any of our audience members have questions or comments or thoughts. And then panelists, I would actually like to bring it back to you right before we close. And I'll ask you one last question about leaving our audience members with a little message. And then we will wrap it up. So at this point, Emily Evers is back on camera. For those of you who have joined us a little bit later, Emily is our advancement director, and she's been helping to facilitate the behind the scenes part of Zoom, which I really appreciate. And Emily, because you've been moderating the questions, I'm going to ask you to take over and let us know if there's any audience questions or comments.
Yes, hello everyone. So if you also missed the beginning and you haven't had a chance to ask your question yet, there's the Q&A button or the chat. You can send a question either way. And if you brought a piece of art, or not really brought it with you, but have it in front of you and want to share it on camera, just send me or Shay a message, and we can give you video and mic capabilities so that you can share it on screen. Otherwise, use the Q&A or chat. But a couple questions for the panelists. One is wondering how your art style has changed since you first started creating, and then what is your favorite part of that change or growth that you've gone through? And since this is a surprise question, I'm curious who wants to take this one. So Lane? Okay, let's see. All right, go ahead, Lane.
Okay, I was born very creative as a child. My mother had artistic talent, My identical twin brother could not draw a line with a straight line with a ruler, but I started out drawing and painting and doing cartoons and stuff. Took art through high school, and then I had a bunch of uncles and aunts who were carpenters, so they were in the woodworking business. So then I started making wooden toys, and then I kind of got burned out on wooden toys, and I was working for Amway Corporation in the maintenance department, and was realizing all this scrap metal being thrown away. And with my 2003 serious car accident, I started making art out of metal, and it has really blossomed into something big. So I have 5 big sculptures throughout the state. I have some art over on different states, and I've been invited overseas to do art, but I haven't pursued that yet. But I enjoy working with scrap metal now because I have this God-given talent that I can look at a piece of scrap and turn it into art. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Lane. I'm going to keep moving because we've got a couple of questions and then want to get back to Shay. So Kelsey at CTC Straight. Hi, Kelsey in CTC group. Kelsey's wondering how long each of the artists have been making art. So maybe we can rotate through everyone real quickly, or if you can hold up your fingers to show, either way. So how about Wes,
Can you
go
say that
first?
question one more time?
Yes. Kelsey's wondering how long each artist has been making art.
Oh, all right. I actually did it in high school, of course, because it was required, but there was something about it back then. And then I just went to work, after high school, and I was doing my job, and I just needed something to do afterwards. Well, I saw a community class for art, and it opened my eyes, and it was just a hobby. It was nothing but a hobby back then. I'd work and go to this class once a week, pay my little dues for it, and then, but I learned a ton back then about all the rules of art, the perspective, the colors, the contrast, you name it, how to make it work on the canvas, and then it just kind of stopped because work and everything, life basically took over. But with my disease, I had to do something, and of course there was art always there, so I kind of picked that back up, and a lot has changed in the style that I've used to do. I used to use the brush, all the standard stuff, and then I picked up a credit card because somebody told me, try this once. He used a playing card, and it kind of got soft in mine. And then I saw an expired credit card on the side there, and I just said, let's use that. And ever since, it's been the way I paint. It's more free. It's kind of like a palette knife, but easier to hold and move around for me. And that's how it's changed. But with all that art history that I learned as far as technique and all of that, it's been kind of ongoing, and now it's prevalent, and it's really been wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you, Wes. How about Penny? Do you want to tell us in maybe just in a few sentences how long you've been creating art? I'm keeping an eye on the clock. I want to make sure we have time for the next few questions.
Sure. About 42 years on and off. I took some time off after I had my daughter, because I was involved in her stuff. But, and then I got to, when she got out of high school and was in college, I started doing it seriously again. So, and then after my car accident, I had to switch from watercolor and paintbrush. Sorry, I have the brain injury. From paintbrush to palette knife because I couldn't hold the brush. I have neuropathy in this hand. So, but yeah, I enjoy it. So.
Wonderful. Thank you. Nick, you want to go next and tell us?
Yeah, I guess really since, grade school, I feel like, I think someone mentioned this earlier, but, like you start making art as a kid, in elementary classes and whatnot. And then, yeah, I just kind of just like stuck with it. And I kind of really got into it in like 4th grade, I guess. My friend Mark and I would always like buy comic books, and we would, spend our afternoons, or in the summer anyways, like drawing from comics and whatnot. And yeah, it just kind of just kept going from there. And yeah, so that's where it all started.
Awesome. All right. Lane and Scott, do you want to answer this question too? Raise your hand if you do. Lane, all right. Here you go.
Just
Go
real
ahead, Lane.
quick, I started as a child, so I've been doing it all my life, but I even used to draw on the frosted windows of the old farmhouse when I didn't have paper, so it's just a quick answer.
Scott, do you also want to answer this one? Let me get you unmuted here.
Say you yes. And I did.
When did you start drawing?
I started art one time ago at home. Free and make markers and maybe paint.
He started with markers
And paint.
and then paint.
Paints.
Awesome.
Ever since he's 3.
3 years old, yes.
Wow, that's great. Okay, so thank you, Kelsey, for that question. I'm glad everyone got a chance to answer it. So I see Lisa has her hand raised as an attendee, so I'm gonna transfer Lisa so she can be on camera and we can hear her. But in the meantime, it's gonna take a second. So Shay, if you wanna get started that last question, maybe we can get through a couple panelists while we get Lisa transferred over, because we've got about 5 minutes left here.
Sure. I was hoping that we could end on a positive, well, this whole thing has been positive, but a really positive ending also, because we've all gone through a pretty hard time, a dark time. And I wanted to know if some of the panelists could share just some positive words with us, some affirmations, or some thoughts about how special we are, how resilient we are because we're artists or we're creatives or we're people who just love art and the idea of creativity. So what are some positive words that you could leave our audience members with? Wes, would you be able to share?
Absolutely. When somebody sees something that you've done, and they just know it's coming from you, and they really appreciate it. And just, and I've said this already, when something starts not looking the way you want it to, you have to walk away from it for a little bit, but don't put it away for good. You come right back at it and see something different the next time you look at it, and never give up on it. And if you have to put it aside for a long time, at least it's aside, and you'll pull it out eventually and do something with it, and so nothing will be wasted, so to speak. I have what I call my loser pile, but I'll go back into that loser pile of paintings, and I'll oh, well, I think with that I can do something. And so it's just don't give up on anything. And everything has time, so you just keep plugging forward.
Thank you, Wes. I think I don't want Lisa to have to keep waiting, so I'll have Lisa ask her question really quickly, and then I'm gonna go back to the panelists so that we can end with your message of positivity for our audience. Hi, Lisa, welcome.
Hi, hello everybody. Just wanted to say thank you again for yesterday. We enjoyed all of the art. We especially loved Lane's butterfly, so I just want to mention that. But Mary's here, and she wanted to just share a piece of art, and I hope we're not going before we were supposed to, but I wasn't sure what we were supposed to do.
We don't know.
Oh, you're perfect. Yeah, we're winging it. Go ahead.
See it. Wait a second. Let me get in the full screen because I feel like I can't see it, so maybe you can't see it. I don't know how this works.
we could see it when you first held it up. Yeah.
Cindy Lauper.
Aw, Cindy Lauper.
A good one.
Yep.
Yeah, she used to visit sick children in hospitals.
Oh.
That's why I like
her.
I love
she does.
Lauper.
She does a lot of good work.
I happen to know that one of our classrooms was listening to Cyndi Lauper just last week at Lincoln Developmental Center. So she's one of our teaching artists. So
Oh, nice. And
Cyndi
that was on.
Lauper, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
She's a popular lady right now, apparently.
Yeah, that was from last year's entry at ACT. She had the 3 ladies, Tina Turner, Pat Benatar, right?
Benatar, and Cyndi Lauper.
Anything you want to say about the others?
Pat Benatar, she's a famous rock star. And
Yeah.
she's like, I'm not sure she was Motown, not Motown,
But why did you prefer to draw them? What was
I like Tina Turner because her husband wasn't very nice to her.
Oh.
Like Turner wasn't.
So she's a very strong woman, would you
Yeah,
say?
and people said that girls, a lot of time that girls don't know how to sing rock and roll music
Oh.
at all. Just men. No, and not to make
Only
fun of
men?
men. Yeah, the rock and roll singers. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
The
there's
girls
some.
had to be at home, take care of family and stuff. They would
Right.
make fun of for being rock and roll, same kind of music that the Stu Teller and them.
Thank you, Lisa and Mary, so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay, that was wonderful to have that. I'm going to circle back to the last thing that I asked our panelists, and I'm going to have Cyndi Lauper and Tina Turner and Pat Benatar on my mind as I do so. But Wes shared, but I'm wondering, Penny, if you want to share also, if you have any just positive words for our audience members to leave them with.
Sure. I just started a series of still lifes, and there are lemons coming. There's a window, and there's lemons on a table with a pot of flowers in a glass vase next to them. And so it's kind of like, life gives you lemons, and then the flowers represent, what you make of it. And so, life has given us a lot of lemons lately, but, we can make lots of beautiful flowers. We don't have to let that, be the only exposure that we see. So I'm really excited to see, how they go over. And I think it's going to be a wonderful year for us all, and I'm excited about it.
Thank you, Penny. And Lane, do you have any positive words to leave our audience members with? Oh, you gotta unmute yourself, Lane.
Sorry, Lane, I'm a little behind. I think you should have an option now.
Okay, during this COVID crisis, I've been very, very busy with my art. I've sold a few pieces. I have a few pieces in storage, but I also want to encourage the public and the people, other artists, other people with disabilities and everything else to get involved with ACT, because they are doing a wonderful, wonderful thing here. And if it wasn't for you folks, we probably wouldn't have a place to show our art. So I encourage the people to get out and support ACT. We love you, and God bless you all.
Thank you. That was unsolicited promotion.
That's the way I feel.
That's very kind of you. Scott, I thought I saw you hold something up. Did you want to share something with us?
It's my polar bears. What about baby? It sinks in. The next one. Fish. Blue Turner.
He worries about endangered species and this time of the pandemic.
And this is that Blue Turner.
Yeah. And where did you see that?
It was on the cruise.
Yeah. He saw the bluefin tuna.
On the cruise, yes.
And
touring, I made down a fence.
Yeah. Elephants.
And next one.
Yeah. The moa.
The moa. And
And Dr. Lee's dog.
Dr. Lee's dog, I met him a time ago, right?
Yeah, and so he likes to remember animals at this difficult time.
I know. And so
You can do that too. The butterfly.
and the butterflies I was working on. And queen the
flowers.
Flowers and except for so it is something so it's where.
Yeah.
That's all.
Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you, Scott. Nick, do you want to share anything? You can pass, but if you have any parting words, it'd be great.
Yeah, I just kind of want to echo what Wes said a little bit ago about just keep going, keep moving. You know, like it's definitely easy to get stuck in a rut. It's definitely a really difficult time right now. But I think art is, you know, even more important than it's ever been. And I think, you know, I think it can help both creatives and people who just want to look at art. You know, I think it can help, you know, mentally and emotionally. So yeah, keep creating. Don't stop.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, panelists, feel free to unmute yourselves. We're going to wrap it up now. I want to thank all of our audience members for listening, for joining us today. If you shared or asked a question, thank you for that. I also want to thank Herman Miller Cares, who is a sponsor of Action Art this year and who helped make this all happen. And to our panelists and audience members alike, everyone have a wonderful rest of your week and keep on creating. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Shay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice meeting everybody.
Good to meet you too.